When did he suggest this?
I don't remember exact time.
While you were living in New Orleans?
Yes, it was in New Orleans.
And what did he say to you?
Well, he asked me for my cooperation to help him to hijack a plane. And response was that I even couldn't speak English. How can I force somebody? Or anyway, I just left at the whole matter.
Well, what did he want you to do?
Curious. Well, it was so ridiculous it's even embarrassing to mention it right now. He told me that he will teach me what I'm supposed to say. You know, maybe hold the gun and tell the people, you know, that...
well...
I forgot what really I'm supposed to do.
How did the discussion come about regarding hijacking a plane? In other words, did he approach you, and what did he say?
But I'm sorry, but I do not remember the conversation, you know, word to word right now.
Did he mention any particular airline or any particular flight?
No. It was just a general idea that he was toying with.
And did he mention where he wanted to hijack the plane to? To
no.
What country?
Pardon me, to what?
To what country?
To Cuba.
Did he mention using his rifle and his handgun?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
Well, that with the gun he can persuade the pilot to fly the way he will tell him to.
And what did he want you to do?
Just to hold another gun or something like that, you know.
And what did he say, or what did you say in response to all of this?
Well, first of all, I refused, and I tried to make him to see how it will look very funny to people. Here I was pregnant with a child, you know, it doesn't look very scary.
Now this happened after the Walker incident. You were in New Orleans.
It was in New Orleans, yes, sir.
Okay. Did you tell anyone of this, of his suggestion to hijack a plane?
Then, no.
Okay. You did not tell any relatives or friends?
No.
Did you think he was serious? Did you think he was going to carry out such a plan?
I really cannot say. I don't know.
When did you first learn of his planned trip to Mexico City? When did you first know about that?
Well, shortly before I left for Dallas with Ruth Payne.
And how did you learn of this?
He told me about his plans to go to Mexico City and visit Cuban embassy over there.
Did he tell you how he was going to travel to Mexico City?
By the bus.
What else did he say about the trip to Mexico City?
He told me not to tell anybody about that.
And who was he referring to when he told you not to tell anyone?
Mrs. Payne.
Did he give you a reason for not telling?
Yes, because he said that maybe he won't be able to come back.
Come back where? To the United States?
Well, he was... he told me that Mrs. Payne would not approve such an action on his part, and maybe if he would not come back, she wouldn't be helpful to me, since we really did need her financial support at that time.
Did he say he was going to travel there with anyone, in the company of anyone?
No, he didn't.
Well, do you think he traveled with anyone? Is there anything that would lead you to believe that he traveled to Mexico City with someone else?
No.
Would it have been likely that he would have?
I don't think so, because Lee was quite secretive as a person. He would not share his plans with somebody else that easily. He never mentioned afterwards, after he came back from Mexico, that he was with somebody.
Did he tell you the planned route that he anticipated traveling to Mexico City?
No, he did not.
Tell us precisely then what happened when you left New Orleans.
Me and my child en route went over Dallas, and we left Lee behind at this apartment in New Orleans.
When was the last time you saw Lee in New Orleans?
Do you mean the date?
Yeah, in relation to the day you left to go back to Dallas.
I don't remember the date, but Mrs. Payne came to New Orleans and she picked me up. And all the belongings and things like that.
She carried all your belongings back to
In her
Dallas?
car, yes.
Who helped pack, or who packed the belongings?
Lee did.
Did you also?
Maybe very few minor baby stuff. We did not have that much of
How
belongings.
many possessions did you have then? Did you have furniture?
No,
So when we talk about belongings, we're talking about...
just the clothing and cooking utensils.
So what did you have, boxes and suitcases?
Mainly boxes.
What about the rifle? Did you see that?
Well, Lee packed all the things.
Do you recall seeing the rifle among the goods, among your belongings?
No, everything was packed and he loaded in the car all by himself.
Who loaded it in the car?
Lee did.
Was the rifle visible? Could you see it?
No.
Where did Lee get the money to travel to Mexico City?
Well, he told me that he was saving from his paycheck, put inside, and we have very moderate spending, only on bare necessities.
Did he show you the money he had saved?
No.
What was your reaction to this whole affair, going to Mexico City and going back to Dallas?
I was very upset about. I did not know if I ever see Lee again. I had to be responsible for one child I had, and I was expecting another one in a way. So, anyway, I was quite lost. And on top of everything, I could not share that with no one.
Could you share it with Ruth Payne?
No.
Why do you say that?
Well, I don't know why, but I wasn't approve of what Lee did, but at the same time, he was my husband, and I had to be somehow loyal to him.
When he left for Mexico City, when you both parted in New Orleans,
Yes.
When did you expect to see him again?
I honestly did not expect to see him again, but he said if his trip to Cuban embassy would be unsuccessful and they would not permit him, so then he come back to Ruth's Payne house in Irving, Texas.
That he would not come back?
He will come back.
Wait a minute. You're saying, the question was, when did you expect to see him again?
Probably a matter of a week.
Oh, you did expect him to come back after the Mexican...
Well, if he it was understood if he can go to Cuba right away, he will go. But if he can't, then he come back to Texas.
If he had been successful in getting to Cuba right away, what was your plan? What were you to do?
Well, he said that he will be in touch with me and send for me to follow him to Cuba.
Did he ever discuss, if he were unsuccessful in getting into Cuba, that he would try to go back to the Soviet Union from Mexico City?
Yes, that was discussed too.
And at that point, was he willing to go back to the Soviet Union?
As far as I remember right now, I think it...
At that time, were you willing to go back to the Soviet Union?
Well, our living conditions weren't very nice, and Lee not be capable of handle job for a long time. I thought it would be more security if I go back home.
When he did return to Dallas, did he tell you about his experience in Mexico City?
In very short terms, that he was unsuccessful, and he talked with some people over there. They denied him a visa, and he was very disappointed.
Did he tell you who he met with, what he did, and what he did?
He did not mention the names.
Did he tell you where he went?
Well, like a Cuban counselor, maybe.
Did he ever mention to you anything about the university in Mexico City?
No.
Did he ever discuss anything of a social nature, what he did in Mexico City when he wasn't at the Cuban embassy?
I don't recall right now.
Do you remember if he ever discussed attending a party or parties?
No, he didn't.
In Mexico City?
He did not say that.
Do you know whether, well, when he got back, did he specifically tell you he had traveled from New Orleans to Mexico City and back again by bus? Did he specifically tell you he went by bus? Or are you just assuming that?
I really just assumed that because that's what he told me before he was leaving. That's how he will travel there by bus.
Do you know if he traveled through Dallas on the way to Mexico City?
Excuse me?
Do you know if he traveled through Dallas? Did he go to Mexico City from New Orleans by way of Dallas?
Well, I don't know that.
If he had, would you have expected him to stop or notify you if he had been in the area? Would that be likely?
No, I did not know about his route.
Did he ever mention to you the name Sylvia Odio?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I'm finished with this section of questioning.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Pryor, for such time as he may consume.
Mrs. Porter, when Lee Harvey Oswald returned from Mexico to Dallas, he'd been through what must have been an important experience in his life where he was frustrated in his attempt to return to Russia or to go to Cuba. Did you notice any change in his personality at that time once he returned from Mexico?
Well, somehow I felt that maybe he will be more settled, but no. Looked like he was quite happy to see his family back. And we were talking about the, arrival of new babies, so I thought maybe right now he will be more responsible.
Did his treatment of you improve? Did he behave towards you more responsibly?
He wasn't as brutal and violent after that compared to what was before.
So that there was a change in his personality and his treatment of you when he returned, and that change was, on the whole, to the good.
In some areas, yes, he improved to better. At least the relationship was a little bit better.
He eventually came to get a job at the Texas School Book Depository, Do you know how he got that job?
I think some friends of Mrs. Payne. I will be just speculating right now, recalling back how long it was. I mean, it was a long time ago. I think somebody helped him to get this job.
Did he ever say anything about his job? Did he like it, or did he regard it as too beneath him, or what was his attitude about it?
I think he kind of liked his job, yes.
Getting back to the other question, you know of, or can you name anyone other than Mrs. Payne who may have helped him get that job?
I think one of her neighbors was working there too. And maybe that's how, with his help or recommendation, that he got job.
That would have been Mr. Frazier.
That's the gentleman I'm thinking of.
Apart from Mr. Frazier or Mrs. Payne, do you know of anyone else who had anything to do with his getting that job?
No, I don't know.
When you were living with Mrs. Payne in Irvine and Lee Harvey Oswald was living in Dallas at the Beckley Street rooming house, did you ever visit him there in Dallas?
No.
How did you come to find out that he had registered in an assumed name, O.H. Lee, at the rooming house in Beckley Street?
Well, he left me his telephone number where he can be reached. And one day I called and asked for, to speak with him, and they said that person by that name doesn't live there. So when he came following weekend to Ruth Payne's house, I asked him what it's all about. And he said that he did not give his real name to the landlady because they don't want them to find out that maybe by reading newspapers that he was in Soviet Union, and maybe it will create some difficulties.
What was your reaction on learning that he was renting the room under an assumed name?
Well, by that time I was quite upset about him living such a secretive life, always making some stories or lies or cover up something. So it wasn't a very comfortable position to be in. At least for me it wasn't.
We've asked you earlier about whether he was devious, secretive, cunning. Did he always like to be the boss, or did he take orders gracefully?
Not very easily.
Generally speaking, how did he get along with people?
He did not have very many friends. And once, like in America, the one that he met, he was very disappointed and quite quickly.
Well, I think all of these questions may perhaps be summarized this way. The questions of whether he was secretive or whether he could work with people. Can you visualize him working with an accomplice?
Personally, I can't.
And could you explain briefly why you reached that conclusion?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist. I cannot be maybe a good judge of character. But living with a person for a few years, you at least have maybe some kind of intuition about what he might do or might not. I don't mean in every respect. But he wasn't very trustworthy and open person. So personally, I seriously doubt that he will confide in someone.
During October and November of 1963, the 2 months just preceding the assassination, did any change occur in Lee and his conduct?
2 months before, was it that in Dallas period?
Pardon me?
Wasn't that in Dallas?
Yes. Any change different from what you've already described for us?
No, I did not see very much of Lee except only on the weekends. And it seemed to me on the weekends his mood was all right.
Could you contrast?
It was more relaxed mood instead of, very tense, like before.
He was in a relaxed mood rather than a tense mood.
Yes.
How did that compare with his mood just before the time of the Walker shooting?
Excuse me? I can't hear you.
You've indicated that he was in a more relaxed mood in October and November in Dallas. How did that compare with the mood he was in at the time immediately before the Walker shooting occurred?
Well, like before Walker, he was more irritable and annoyed by me, but maybe just because we didn't see each other for quite a long time during the week.
Was there
So he enjoyed
anything
my
during...
Pardon me?
Excuse me. Pardon me, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, that's all right. Just skip.
Was there anything during October of 1963 in Dallas that occurred that was out of the ordinary that would have been a signal to you of any kind of what was to come?
No.
How about in November? Anything out of the ordinary occur at that time that could have been a signal?
Not at all. I was thinking that the family would maybe in a way to the better life, be together, and maybe he changed for the better, forever.
Did he have any friends or acquaintances during this period in October and November?
Not that I know of. Besides seeing Michael Payne, Ruth's husband, occasionally, I don't know anybody that he was talked with or associated with.
Was he friendly with Frazier, Ruth Payne's neighbor?
I really don't know, sir, because I've seen men very few times, and I do not know if they talk about anything. Anyway, he did not make any remarks about another gentleman.
I want to ask you about some meetings you had with one person during this period. Do you know an FBI agent named James Husty?
Well, I remember the name. I do not remember his face by now.
How do you know him?
He came at Ruth Payne's house one day, and he asked some questions through her about if I have been ever approached by any agents from another country, and I told him no. And he asked me to let him know if such an incident occurred.
And Lee was not present at the time.
No, he was at work.
What was Lee's reaction?
When he found out about that, he was very angry again. And he said that he will talk to Mr. Hesty and tell him to stop harassing me.
Did he say anything about whether you should speak to him again if Mr. Hosty should come again?
Excuse me?
Well, let me put it this way. How many times did Mr. Hosty visit you?
I recall only one incident, but could be two, maybe, I don't know. That could be another record, in the Warren Commission.
What were the visits of the FBI like from your point of view? Were you intimidated by them or frightened by them, or what was your attitude about it?
Well, at the beginning, I took this as a routine procedure because, after all, we just came from communist country, and I really didn't see anything unusual about the government. keep an eye on your government official, checking on you occasionally.
So
It did not disturb me that much.
But Lee's reaction to it was, well, could you just describe what his reaction to these two
Well,
visits?
sometime I thought that maybe it did cross my mind, maybe because lack of holding a job, maybe it was because somebody were investigating him on the job, so.
What was his opinion generally of the FBI?
Well, he wasn't fond of them.
Pardon me?
He wasn't very fond of them.
Did he give them credit for causing him to lose his job in New Orleans because of the Fair Play for Cuba leaflets?
I think so.
Do you know if Lee ever mentioned President Kennedy to Mr. Hosty, Agent Hosty?
I don't know.
When was the last time that you saw Hosty before November 22nd, 1963?
Whatever this visit that was at Mrs. Payne's house, that's only one or twice maybe I seen him. I think maybe he came back. I do not recall exactly if he ever came back again.
Do you know when the last time Lee saw Hosty before November 22nd?
No, I don't remember the date.
Did you ever see Hosty after November 22nd? After the assassination?
I do not remember Mr. Hosty's face, so I cannot say if I seen him or not. I do not recall seeing him afterwards.
Could you tell us a little more about the visit of the FBI to you on their first and second visits? Who was present when they first visited you? Was Mrs. Payne with you, did I understand you to say?
Yes, Mrs. Payne was with me.
Was anyone else with you?
No.
And where was this?
When or where? It was at her house.
Where was it? Did you speak in the house or out in the yard?
It was in the house.
And could you tell us in a little more detail what was said at that meeting?
Mrs. Payne was acting as interpreter. So she told me that, as I told you before, the man was just want me to tell him if anybody will ever, any agent of another country will ever ask me to work for them or something like in that manner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions in that area at this time.
Chairman Stokes is conferring with Richardson Pryor at the moment. The whispering you can hear is Marina Porter whispering to her lawyer. I'd be quiet if we could really hear what she was saying, but you can just hear the kind of whisper in the background.
Mrs. Porter, we're going to show you Exhibit F 183 and 184, the 133A. Would the clerk please hand Mrs. Porter the exhibit? And for demonstration purposes, we have on the easel F383. And my questions are going to be directed toward the back of the photograph where the handwriting is.
Okay.
Mrs. Porter, if you'd again direct your attention to the lower left-hand corner where the writing says, "To my friend George from Lee Oswald."
Yes.
And I specifically call your attention to the numbering in the lower extreme left-hand corner where it has 5/Roman numeral 4/63. can you tell us, was that Lee's custom in dating letters or whatever? Was it his custom to use that style, the style you see here with the 5 with a Roman numeral?
I really cannot tell that much about.
Would you take a look at it?
No, I really don't know, sir.
I'm sorry.
I do not know.
Have you ever seen that style of dating where the month is designated by a Roman numeral?
I don't see anything so unusual about it, because isn't it everybody's preference how they want to write?
Okay,
What do you mean all the Romans are all...
I'm sorry, repeat that.
You're trying to say that all the numbers should be in Roman numerals?
No, I'm not saying which way they should be. I'm asking you if as you look at those numbers, what do you see in front of you? What numbers?
5-4th month 63.
4/63. Okay. The question is, that style of designating the month with Roman numerals, is that a style of writing that you know to be characteristic of Lee Oswald?
I really don't know, sir.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. Do you ever use that style of designating a date?
I think in Russia it is customary in Russia to...
It is customary in
to
Russia
use Roman numerals for the month.
to designate the month?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know if Lee adopted that style?
I do not know, really.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Porter, let me direct your attention to November 21st, 1963. It was a Thursday.
What is the date?
21st of November.
Okay.
Where were you that day?
I was at Mrs. Payne's house
And just for the record, where is Mrs. Payne's house?
in Irving, Texas.
Irving, Texas. Okay. What did you do that day in Irving?
What day of the week was it?
It was a Thursday.
Thursday? Well, just a routine. I do not really remember it. Just a routine.
Was Lee there that morning? Was he staying with you?
I really don't remember. Yes, probably he did come Thursday.
When did he come on
He
Thursday?
usually come on Friday, but he came on Thursday.
Okay. At what part of the day did he come?
After work,
After work. So about what time would that be?
6 o'clock, between 5 and 6.
And what do you remember exactly what happened when he arrived? First of all, what were you doing? What were you doing?
I don't remember.
Okay. How do you remember Lee arriving Thursday afternoon, November 21st?
How do I remember right now after testifying so many times to so many people, you know?
Well, do your best. How do you remember today?
Well, I'm sorry, I do not recall what exactly I was doing. And I just know that he arrived at Thursday and it was after work.
Okay. Well, do you remember, describe the situation when you first saw him on that afternoon? In other words, did he come through the door? Did he come through the back door, the front door? Did you see him when you were in the kitchen?
Sorry, I do not remember.
You don't remember any details?
No.
What did he say? Can you remember what he said to you when he came in?
No, I don't remember.
Did he say hello?
Isn't it usually people say hello when they see each other?
Do you
Probably.
Do
I
you
don't
remember what you said to him?
No, I don't.
Were you surprised that he came on a Thursday?
Yes, it wasn't the usual day that he comes.
So, did you make any comment to that effect?
I probably have.
Can you remember what you said?
No, I don't.
When had you last spoken to him prior to him coming to Irving on Thursday? When had you last talked to him?
I don't remember, sir.
Well, when was the last time you had seen him?
Prior to that,
Prior, yeah.
he usually come every weekend.
Do you
Once
remember
a
seeing
week.
him the weekend before?
No, but I don't think, one of the weekends he did not come. On Friday, I don't think so. Because he was angry with me or something like that.
How did he act when you first saw him on Thursday evening?
Well, I think maybe, I try my best to remember. I think prior to that, maybe we had disagreement or argument about something, like him hiding the name.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Like, I think that maybe it was in connection of him hiding his real name at the landlady's office, and maybe we had the argument over that, and I thought maybe he came just to make up, you know.
Okay. Well, what did you discuss when he came on Thursday evening? Can you recall? Did you speak about that? His using a fictitious name?
Well, we were talking about him renting apartment for us, and I would like to be. It was very big imposition to live with Mrs. Payne, and I thought we just should live as a family, and I think that was discussed for us all moved together.
You remember discussing these things that night, Thursday night, the 21st?
Not word, the word.
Not word for word, but
Yes,
this is what you remember generally speaking.
Yes.
All right. How did he appear when he came home that night?
Quite normal. It was nothing unusual in his appearance.
It was not unusual that he would come in on a Thursday?
No, it wasn't anything unusual in his appearance. Because you asked me how did he look.
Did he seem relaxed?
Yes.
Did he seem in any way different than he usually would appear?
No.
Did he seem calmer than normal?
Yes.
Can you relate or remember that did he act in any way like he did prior to the Walker incident?
No.
And please explain why you say no.
Well, he was more withdrawn person before Walker, more hostile. He was more in peaceful mode right now, and was willing to listen to me more so than then.
What do you mean he was willing to listen?
Well, like for example, if maybe before I would say I would like for us to be together, and he would tell me to, or just stop dreaming or something, or just cut me off or not listen at all. But now at least he was listening to what I had to say.
In other words, that evening you're saying he would listen to you more.
Yes.
Did he discuss, or what was said? Let me strike that. Did you all eat dinner together? You and Lee
Yes.
with the Paynes?
What else? Now, I recall that was President Kennedy supposed to come on Friday?
That's correct.
Okay, so that was a quite interesting news to me, and I was asking Lee about President being in Dallas, and he did not make any comment about it all. Seemed like he did, well, like before I said that he was more listening to me, but now when I recall back, it was quite unusual that he did not want to talk about President Kennedy being in Dallas at that particular evening. That was quite peculiar.
What did he say what did you say to him about President Kennedy's trip to Dallas?
Well, it was quite exciting, for me to talk about. It seemed like he's changing the subject or just refused to talk about. But it wasn't in any hostile way or violent form. Just looked like he just ignored it a little bit, to talk about.
What did he say? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I mean, how did he dismiss talking about Kennedy? Did he say?
Or maybe change subject about talking about our newborn baby or something like that.
How many times did you bring up the subject of President Kennedy coming to Dallas?
Well, I don't remember how many times right now.
Did it come up more than once?
Probably.
And what was his reaction each time?
He just didn't want to talk about it somehow.
Was anyone else talking about it? Was Ruth Payne talking about
Yes,
it?
Mrs. Payne.
Was Michael?
Discussed that. Pardon me?
I'm sorry. Mrs. Payne was discussing it.
Yeah, that's how I learned from Mrs. Payne that President Kennedy coming to town.
And what was your reaction then? Did his not wanting to talk about the upcoming visit of President Kennedy, what was your reaction to his attitude?
Well, I did not, if he didn't want to talk about, I did not pursue him further.
Did you at all think that evening, did you think back at all that evening before, when Lee was home and he didn't want to talk about the upcoming presidential visit? Did it ever cross your mind did the Walker incident
No.
or the Nixon incident?
No.
Did Lee say anything at all about President Kennedy that night?
No, I asked him, for example, if he know which route President Kennedy will take or something, and he said he doesn't know anything about it.
That's what he said? I don't know anything about it?
Yeah.
Did you ask whether he was going to watch President Kennedy when he came through downtown Dallas?
I don't remember that.
That evening, did you know the route the president was going to take?
No.
Did Mrs. Payne know?
I don't know. She didn't tell me.
And your testimony is that Lee did not know, or did not tell you?
He did not tell me that he knew.
And when was all this discussion about President Kennedy taking place? Was this taking place at the dinner table?
No, I think maybe it was in the living room. In front of the television set. Pardon me?
While the television was on?
Probably.
Do you recall watching any news programs that evening that were describing the...
Well, I didn't, Mrs. Payne did speak Russian, and I did not understand English well enough to know what it was all about.
I'm sorry, did you say that Mrs. Payne did not speak Russian?
She did speak Russian.
She did speak Russian, okay. What happened, let me ask you, when you were in the living room discussing President Kennedy's visit, was that before or after dinner?
I don't remember, sir.
Okay. What happened later on that evening? Were there any further discussions about the upcoming presidential visit?
He went to bed before me, and I had some other chores to do around the house. So when I went to bed, he was asleep.
Before he went to bed, did he pay any attention to his daughter, his child?
Yes, he did. Usually on the weekends, he did play with children.
Did he play with her that evening?
Yes.
Do you recall for how long?
I don't remember.
Did he act differently toward you that evening? comparing it with other occasions when you had seen him in the recent past.
Well, since I was angry at him, previous weekend, I didn't want him to just get, I didn't want to make up that easily. I want him, to teach him a lesson, not to do this anymore.
Now, when you moved in with Ruth Payne, where were your belongings?
In Mrs. Payne's house, in the garage, most of it.
And how much space did they occupy in the garage?
I don't remember, but you have to go in between boxes, in the garage.
Could you get an automobile in the garage at the same time?
I don't remember.
And do you recall going in that garage from time to time when you lived with the Paynes?
Yes.
And do you recall seeing where his rifle was located? In other words, did you know where it was?
Yes, I did.
Where was it?
In the garage.
Where in the garage?
I'm out of, but I think it was wrapped in a blanket.
And where was this blanket? In other words, was it in plain view? Was it
No,
in the corner?
it was in between boxes, I think. That's how that's how I remember right now.
Did you ever see it unwrapped? Did you ever see the gun when you were at Ruth Payne's? Did you ever see the rifle taken outside of the blanket? Was it ever exposed?
No.
On the night of the 21st, did you see Lee go into the garage?
No.
Did you see him go into the backyard at all?
I don't remember.
When he was playing or paying attention to the child, what were you doing at that time?
I don't remember, sir. Sorry about that.
Would it be your usual custom to be playing with the child with him?
Excuse me?
Would you usually play together with the child?
No. Usually I'd be busy doing something. I did have two children, so when you take care of one.
Do you remember at all Lee going out into the backyard or the side yard toward the garage?
I don't remember that.
And you just testified that when you went to bed or got to bed, he was asleep.
Yes.
What did he give in? Now, in the book, Marina and Lee, you are quoted as saying in that at one point in the morning, 3 a.m. I think it is, that there was an incident where he kicked you vehemently, I think the word is in the book.
Pardon?
He kicked you very forcefully, pushed your leg or something to that effect.
Yes.
Would you comment on that?
No, I do not remember that incident right now.
But it's your testimony that when you got to bed that night, he was asleep? Or he seemed asleep?
Yes.
Are you sure he was asleep?
Well, I assumed that he was. He wasn't awake.
What happened the next morning?
I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to remember right now details. But whatever I told Priscilla, that was the truth. My memories was much fresher then, and you can take the statements in the book as a true fact.
Tell us what happened the morning, Friday morning, November 22nd. What happened at dawn or when you woke up?
Well, based on my recollection right now, I think I wanted to get up and maybe fix a cup of coffee for Lee or something. He told me not to get up. He'll do it himself.
How did he look? How did he appear in the morning?
As usual.
Well, he got dressed for work, in other words?
Yes.
Did he appear at all to be nervous?
No.
Agitated or excited?
No, it's nothing in his behavior that I would be suspicious of something.
Are you saying that he acted in a normal fashion?
As far as I remember right now, yes.
Did he at all resemble the way he appeared before the Walker incident?
No.
In other words, your testimony today is that his demeanor at the time of November 22nd was different. He was calm. He was acting normally.
Yes.
What did he say to you as he went to work?
I'm sorry, I do not remember that. Goodbye, probably. You know.
And where were you when he went out to work that morning?
In the bedroom.
You were still in bed?
Yes.
Was it dark in the room?
I think so. Very early.
And you don't recall what he said when he walked out?
No.
At that time, did you detect anything out of the ordinary?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counsel. Procedure at this point will be as follows. The chair will recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Pryor, for such time as he may consume, after which the committee will operate under the 5-minute rule. Chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Pryor.
Mrs. Porter, when did you first learn that President Kennedy had been assassinated?
I was watching television, and all of a sudden everything went blurry, and I did not know what happened. And Mrs. Payne explained to me, she told me that somebody shot President Kennedy.
Did you continue to watch television with Mrs. Payne to learn more news about it?
Yes.
What was your reaction to the news?
Well, it was a horrible, shocking news.
Did the TV, as you listened to it, say that the shots had come or were believed to have come from the Texas Book Depository?
Well, I did not understand English, but I think Mrs. Payne told me that shots came from School Book Depository.
Did you have any intuitive feelings about the shooting at that moment?
Well, for instance, my heart kind of stopped or ached. I don't know how to describe the feeling. I felt very uneasy and uncomfortable. And I was afraid that maybe my face would betray me, so I went outside. So I didn't want Ruth Payne to see, the blood was rushing to my cheeks. Whatever.
You were feeling uneasy and uncomfortable because you thought Lee might be involved?
Well, for instance, it did cross my mind. I thought to myself, I hope it wasn't Lee.
When did you first learn of Lee's involvement?
When policemen came at Ruth Payne's house and told me through her that Lee was arrested.
Did you go to the police station with the policeman?
Yes, I think so. Well, all these days, not very clear in my memory, because after that everything was very fuzzy.
But you did see Lee at the police station not long after the assassination, I believe.
I don't remember. Was it the same day or the next day? I do not recall.
When you saw him there, did you speak to him through a glass window?
Yes, sir.
What did you talk about?
Well, it just seemed to me that he was avoiding to discussing with me the assassination at all. He just talked about the children mainly.
Did he give you any signals indicating you should avoid talking about the assassination?
Yes, he did, because it was a glass between us, and it was a telephone receiver that you were supposed to talk to. and he motioned with his eyes on the telephone, and I understood that maybe he meant that it was, so it was taped or something, so to be careful what you're saying. So he just told me not to worry about anything, everything will be all right.
So that he signaled with his eyes at the telephone,
Yes.
indicating to you, be careful what you say. Was his response calm, or was it excited?
What kind of response?
Well, when you met him at the police station, was his attitude calm, or was he excited or talkative?
He looked scared to me.
He looked scared. Was he protesting his innocence, for example? Did he?
He never told me that. He did not tell me in exact words that I am innocent.
If he had been innocent, do you think he would have protested his innocence to you, or that he would have complained about his rights being violated?
Well,
Would that have been typical of him?
Well, I really cannot say, sir. I don't know.
While he was in jail, did he ever call you on the telephone?
I don't remember.
Did he ever at any time give you any hint as to why he did it?
No.
Or any hint as to whether he had any accomplices, anyone assisting him?
No.
How were you treated by the FBI after the assassination?
Well, they were quite strict with me.
How about the Secret Service?
And they were the nice guys, I guess.
So is it fair to say your attitude was more favorable toward the Secret Service than toward the FBI after the assassination?
Yes, that's correct.
Were you ever contacted by any foreign government after the assassination?
No.
Were you ever contacted by anyone who, in effect, supported Lee Harvey Oswald's act in assassinating the president?
No.
Never at any time?
No.
Did you know Officer Tippit?
No.
Or did you know Jack Ruby?
No.
Do you know whether Lee knew Officer Tippit?
I don't know about that.
How about Jack Ruby?
Not to my knowledge.
This is poured up with the benefit of 15 years hindsight, living with the assassination all of these years, and knowing Lee Harvey Oswald probably better than anyone else ever knew him. Can you tell this committee and the American public if it is your opinion that Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president?
Well, I don't know if I'm qualified to make statements like that, because I knew one side of Lee, but I do not have qualification to make a judgment of his whole character and put all the pieces together.
So you do not wish to give an opinion on that subject?
Well, I don't think I'm in a position or qualified to give opinion like that.
Let me ask one final question in this field. If he did it, do you have an opinion as to why he would have done it?
No, I don't.
Mr. Chairman, I, at this time, wanted to review some of the areas which we've already gone over. And as you indicated, I think some of the other members, all of the other members will wish to participate in that too. areas which we've already covered today, but on which I would like to ask Mrs. Porter about some earlier statements which she has made, which might appear to be inconsistent with some statements which she's made today. I understand we will proceed till 4 o'clock today.
That is gentleman's correct.
All right. Well, then, if the chair permits, I will begin with a few of those instances at this time.
Gentleman's recognized.
First, Mrs. Porter, I understand that at the time you testified before the Warren Commission, you could not speak or understand English very well.
That's correct.
You did not use it in the course of your everyday activities, the English language.
I testified for Warren Commission more than once, and they always provide interpreter for me.
So that you did need a translator when you testified before the Warren Commission.
That's correct.
When did you learn to speak English so that you could use it in the course of your everyday activities?
Well, it did come gradually. I cannot say it took 5 months or 6 months or a year. It was a gradual learning process.
Could you make some general estimate of, say, within the last 3 years?
Well, maybe like a year and a half after assassination. I could communicate maybe 3-4 months after November 22nd.
First, I would like to ask you a few questions about the Komsomol Communist Youth Movement, which you testified to today. You testified this morning, as I understand, that you were expelled from it primarily because you married a foreigner. That seemed to be the main reason. Back in December 3rd of 1963, shortly after the assassination, you talked with the FBI about this. You told them you were expelled from it for failing to pick up your membership card. You did not mention your marriage to Lee, as I recall. Why did you not mention your marriage at that time?
I did not understand your question. Why did I did not what?
Well, today...
Oh, I see. I gave you different reason today for it. Well, I assume that the reason for me to being expelled from the organization was for that reason, because I was under pressure before. But their excuse for expelling me, they did not tell me directly, well, because you married to a foreigner, that's why we're expelling you. They said because I wasn't a good member, I did not pay my dues on time or whatever. So it was, on the paper, it was a legitimate excuse for them.
You testified today, I believe, that you did pay your dues regularly to the Komsomol. Earlier, you told the Warren Commission you paid your dues regularly. Earlier, you mentioned in a deposition that you were discharged from the Komsomol because you did not pay dues. Did you pay your dues?
Well, sometimes I usually did, at the beginning, but then on the end of it, if I missed a month, or something like that. What I'm trying to say, that my involvement with the organization was only the things I did, I paid the tuitions or whatever, a few cents a month or something like that. Well, on this meeting, when they discharged me, they discussed my character, and looked like it wasn't good enough for me to be such an irresponsible member of the organization.
Turning
Well,
to...
excuse me, may I add also that Lee frightened me as well about, he thought that if authorities ever find out that I'm a member of such an organization, I could be prosecuted in that country too. So maybe at the beginning when the FBI were questioning me, I was still afraid that might cause some inconveniences or departure out of this country.
Let me turn to one other area, which is Lee's trip to Mexico. You told us today that you knew of Lee's intended trip to Mexico City when you were living in New Orleans. And I believe you said that also to the Warren Commission. Why did you not give the FBI this information when they interviewed you back in November the 29th, 1963, approximately a week after the assassination?
Well, I thought at the time I did not really have the country to go to. My husband committed horrible crime. I did not know if I would be prosecuted for that just as well, just being his wife, because I did not know rules and regulations and law of this country at all. So I thought that if I told them that I knew about Mexico, I would be responsible just as well as he did, as he does, for what he did.
As late as January 22nd, 1964, you were still denying that you knew Lee was going to Mexico when you lived in New Orleans. But about 10 days after that, you testified before the Warren Commission that you did know of the trip. If you were trying to protect Lee in December by not telling of the Mexican trip...
I tried to protect myself as well, sir.
Protecting yourself?
And to tell you the truth, I did not like FBI. I did not like their treatment. I'm sorry to say that. I was frightened. And I sometimes, maybe deliberately, was difficult of giving information to the FBI.
Were you pressured by anyone to change your testimony between those dates? That's just a 10-day period there. Did the FBI or the Secret Service or anyone suggest to you to change your testimony there?
Well, I don't remember.
Would you not have remembered if one of them...
I think it was, well, I did not want to talk about the FBI, but I do believe that one of the FBI agents, he brought something that looks like came from Mexico, and little by little question, I had to confess that I did know. Maybe that's what it was. I don't remember right now.
Well, as I understand your testimony, you are saying now you did know of the trip to Mexico, and you gave your earlier statements to the FBI to protect Lee and to protect yourself.
That's correct.
We talked earlier today about the use of the alias Elik Hadel by Lee in New Orleans. And I think you also told the Warren Commission that Lee used Hadel and that was just an altered form of the name Fidel Castro. Why did you tell the Secret Service when they interviewed you 10 days after the assassination that to your knowledge Lee had never used the name Elik Hadel?
I don't remember this incident at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
10 days after assassination, you said?
Yes, approximately 10 days afterwards. you apparently indicated to the Secret Service that that Lee had never used the name Alec Hardell.
Well, my emotional conditions weren't very normal at the time, after the assassination, so I could maybe remember something one day and forget the next one, or frightened, or whatever the circumstances were. But when I gave testimony to the Warren Commission, it was all the truth.
Shifting to the question of the rifle and the pistol, you've told us that you didn't like rifles and guns. When was the first time you saw the pistol that Lee had?
I really do not remember what month or the day it was, and when I learned about the existence of it.
Was it on the occasion of the photograph, or was it on the occasion of the Nixon incident that you mentioned? Which was the first time that you knew he had a pistol?
Well, I cannot right now to compare when the picture was taken, when the Nixon incident was, before or after.
I think the picture was taken in March, and the Nixon photograph was in April. The picture must have been the first time, if you noticed he had the pistol at that time.
This will be more logical way of remembering, probably when it was taken a picture. Because I really do not know, or right now, where's the pistol come from?
Did you make any comment to Lee when the picture was being taken about the rifle and the pistol?
Well, I probably did.
Did you comment on both of them, the pistol and the rifle? Do you recall?
I don't recall, but it's very possible that I did.
Well, if you saw the Nixon, or if you saw the pistol during the Nixon incident, why did you tell the secret police at that time, the Secret Service at that time, that you had never seen Lee with a pistol?
Well, maybe at the time they questioned me, I did not remember. Maybe I tried to protect myself from something, I do not know.
You did know that Lee had killed Officer Tippett with a pistol at that time, did you not? So you knew he had used a pistol before.
Yes, that's probably correct. I do not remember when I found out about Officer Tippett.
Another area of some apparently contradictory statements is in the area of ammunition. You told us today that Lee practiced with a rifle and that you saw ammunition lying around, and you told that to the Warren Commission also. Why did you tell the FBI on December 17th, 1963, again shortly after the assassination, that you had never seen ammunition around the house?
For one simple reason, I was frightened of my well-being in this country.
Would you like to make any general statement at this time about the earlier inconsistencies in your testimony? You have told us that they were, as I understand it, were due at first to your desire to protect Lee, perhaps to your fear of the FBI, perhaps to your fear of being a foreigner in a strange country. Is that basically correct? Is there any further general explanation you would like to give of why there are these inconsistencies in your earlier testimony?
Quite mixed emotions. I was very grateful to Mrs. Ruth Payne to give her shelter when I needed it. I was very embarrassed about the fact that she found out that I knew about all this trips to Mexico and rifle and things like that. It was very embarrassing for me to admit to myself that she has been used, in a way that will be against her religion and her beliefs, and it was insulting for me to do such a thing to a friend. That was one part of it. The fear for not be able to, be persecuted by law for knowing about those things, that was there too.
It has been alleged by some critics that the reason your story changed was not so much because of the reasons you've given and because of your own beliefs, but rather because the FBI and the Secret Service put pressure on you to incriminate Lee immediately after the assassination. While the FBI and the Secret Service did question you, was there ever any pressure from them for you to give evidence that would incriminate Lee, evidence that you believed to be false?
No, that's not correct. I may be like Secret Service, and dislike FBI, but both of those people were working for one cause, to find the truth. Secret Service did question in a more gentle way, and I responded that much better. FBI sometimes were a little bit too brutal, and my response wasn't as cooperative. Maybe some little way I want to punish them for it and not to give them information or correct information. But it wasn't for the reasons that I had been accused of doing it. It was a human mistakes, human error in my own character. I do apologize for it, but it's not because they tried to twist my arm and told me what should I tell and what not to tell. That's not true.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. I have no further questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The committee at this time will operate under the 5-minute rule. I might say to members, we have to conclude today's hearing in this room by 4 p.m. Obviously, we will have to continue the hearing as it relates to this witness on tomorrow. We'll proceed as far as we can this afternoon. Mrs. Porter, throughout your testimony here today, you've indicated that Lee Harvey Oswald always spoke of liking President Kennedy. Is that correct?
That's true, sir.
You never heard him speak of him in a hostile manner?
No.
Then is it consistent, in your opinion then, that a man who spoke of President Kennedy as he did also was accused of having killed the president?
That's very hard for me to comprehend.
Now, have you on occasions indicated that you thought perhaps he was not shooting at President Kennedy but was trying to hit someone else?
It was my loud speculations. We don't have any foundation for it, because it was very hard for me to even think about how a person who could like someone can do such a thing to it. The reason I mentioned Mr. Conley, I mentioned his name only because Lee was correspondent at one time in his life with Governor Conley.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What had he in effect said about Governor Conley?
Not very much. I just learned from him when we were in Russia that he did write Governor Conley for some legal matter, I think, about his him coming back to the United States or have something to do with the service. I do not recall what it was. Then we received letters from Governor Conley, and Lee pointed out the envelope with the, instead of a stamp, it was a Mr. Conley's picture on it, and he explained to me that's how people who wants to be elected, it's a form of advertisement before election or something like that.
Well, did this have something to do with the type of a discharge that he had, which he was dissatisfied with?
Well, at the time, I thought it was just a matter of getting entrance visa or permission to enter United States again. That's what I thought at the time. Anyway, I heard the name in Soviet Union, Mr. Conley, and I thought maybe he was angry somehow at that man.
I'm sorry, I didn't...
I thought maybe for some reason he was angry at that man.
And in expressing that anger, do you recall what he said?
No, I did not say that he was expressing our anger. Immaturely, I tried to make some kind of logical explanation for why all this happened. I could not, it was hard for me to believe that he really was aiming at Mr. Kennedy.
Well, were there several occasions in which he expressed himself regarding Governor Connolly?
I don't remember right now.
Can you recall having given testimony to someone regarding his attitude towards Governor Connolly?
Well, I had so many testimonies, I do not recall that. I don't remember.
So at this time you have no recollection of that?
No.
You mentioned to us that when the two of you arrived in New York, that Lee Harvey Oswald was somewhat disappointed because the press was not there. Is that correct?
I don't remember. It was in New York or in Dallas. Maybe when we got off the plane in Dallas, maybe that was the...
Right.
When he expressed his disappointment.
And why did he indicate he was disappointed the press was not there?
Well, he told me that it was in the news when he left the United States. So now he, probably news media will be waiting, for him over there just as well. So he told me to get prepared for it, and there's nobody over there.
So when no one was there, what did he say?
Well, it's not what he said, and maybe just the expression in his face maybe indicated that, there's no one there.
So then we're to understand that what he manifested was an expression or an attitude, not necessarily did he say anything or verbalize anything.
Well, I do not recall right now. That's correct. But
were there other occasions when
somehow I did learn about that he was, one way or another expressed this kind of statement.
Were there other occasions when he indicated that he felt he ought to get attention from the press?
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember the other occasion.
You said to Judge Pryor earlier today that Lee Harvey Oswald very much admired President Fidel Castro. And then you indicated right behind that at about that time he appeared to be in a revolutionary mood. You recall that?
Yes.
Tell us what you meant by that.
Well, Fidel Castro, it was a new, president of the new republic, and he was leader of the revolution in Cuba. And when when Lee obtained a rifle, and I guess that's somehow in my mind it's associated with some kind of revolution.
Did he then often talk about revolution?
Not in this country. No.
Not in this country?
No.
Where did he talk about
No,
revolution?
he talked about revolution in Cuba that already.
Did he talk about it often?
Yes.
Do you recall what he said about it?
No, I don't remember details right now.
But he did talk about it often?
I don't know.
Our time has expired. The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Devine.
Gosh, that table quit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Porter, there won't necessarily be any continuity in my questions. I'm going to question you about various things that have occurred to me during your previous testimony, and I'm not attempting to confuse you in any way. First of all, I would ask you, are you in reasonably good health?
I'm okay.
I notice you have a habit of putting your left arm behind you. Are you discomfort there in some way?
That's okay. It's just an uncomfortable chair, and when you lean over, your back gets hurt.
Well, we'll try to remedy that tomorrow
That's
then. Are you a citizen of the United States now?
No, I'm not.
You are not. Has anyone during the course of this past 15 years threatened to deport you if you didn't answer in a manner that you thought they thought you should? They have not?
No.
You've had no such threats?
No.
Going to another matter, when Lee obtained the job at the Texas School Book Depository, did he seek that job at that place, or was it just happenstance as far as you know that he obtained a job there?
I don't understand your question, sir.
But did he seek a job at the Texas Book Depository specifically? Is that where he wanted to find a job?
I didn't think so. He was looking for a job at the time, and
as far as you know, that job just came up then?
Yes, that's
and
true.
he didn't seek that particular location as far as you know?
No.
Did he mention to you when the Kennedy visit was discussed that he had a box seat for the motorcade in his present employment?
No.
He never mentioned that?
No.
When is the last time you spoke to your husband?
In jail, after he was arrested?
Through the glass?
Yes.
You were asked, I think, by Judge Pryor whether or not you received a telephone call from him, and you said you don't remember.
I don't remember.
Now, wouldn't you actually remember if that would happen to be the last time you spoke to him while he was alive?
It doesn't ring the bell. I don't recall. I think, in my memory, the last time I spoke to Lee when he was in jail.
But you have no recollection of
No.
that. Did he ever talk to you about the shooting at General Walker?
Afterwards, yes.
What did
Not very much, but only what I told you. That's all I remember.
But this was afterwards, of course, but what did he say about it? That he had missed, or what?
Well, we had quite long discussions, and if I go in details right now, which I do not remember, the general idea was that he didn't think, he thought he was really doing good service to the country by eliminating a person like Mr. Walker.
Did you happen to be watching television at the time your husband was shot by Jack Ruby?
No.
You did not see that incident?
No.
Was Jack Ruby ever at Mrs. Payne's home?
No.
Had you ever met him on any previous occasion?
Never.
Have you never was contacted with him after the incident?
No.
The morning that Lee left, told you to stay in bed, that he'd fix his own coffee. Did you see him leave?
You mean the driveway or the room?
That morning at 5 or 6 o'clock.
No, I stayed in bed, as far as I recall right now. I did not walk to the door.
You didn't see him go down the street to pick up his ride?
No.
You then wouldn't know whether he had anything with him?
I have no idea.
You didn't see him carrying the blanketed covered gun?
I did not.
Did he mention to you anything about having a Venetian blind or a blind in the blanket?
No.
No comment about that at all? You said that when you first heard about the assassination, you were watching the television, I believe, with Mrs. Payne, and you said the thought crossed your mind, and I think your exact words, that I hope it wasn't Lee, end of quote. What caused that to come to your mind? Had this been bothering you?
What, all the time or ever since?
Oh,
or
had
what time?
Had it occurred to you previously that he might do something like this?
No. So when they mentioned school book depository, and I knew that Lee was working over there, I don't know, Sixth Sense or something like that. All of a sudden I just felt for some unknown reason something just...
Well, the fact that the television revealed that the incident occurred in front of the place where Lee worked, did that cause you perhaps to believe that he might have been involved?
Well, knowing about incidents with Walker, one might think, I hope it's not again.
Let's see. Chair, I'll ask further questions later. I think my time's expired.
Time of them has expired. I think this would be an appropriate time for the committee to adjourn until tomorrow morning. And Chair will first excuse the witness until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. All persons in the hearing room are requested to remain in their seats until the witness has departed the room, after which the chair will adjourn the hearings until tomorrow morning.